He spent his early mornings in the fields and his late nights at a desk, working 16-hour days farming, then coming home and editing videos for another 4 or 5 hours before doing it all over again. That man is Cole the Cornstar, a fifth-generation Iowa farmer who turned the daily reality of corn and soybeans into one of the most watched agricultural channels on YouTube. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how a kid from central Iowa built something the platform had never seen before, and why the story behind the camera is more interesting than anything he's shown on it. More than 600,000 people subscribe to his channel. Millions more have watched his videos, and not a single one of them knows his last name. That is not an oversight. It is a decision Cole made before he uploaded his first video, and he has held to it ever since. He has never said his last name on camera, never posted it on social media, and never allowed it to appear in a published article. When the University of Northern Iowa, his own alma mater, covered his channel in their official newsletter, they included a note at the bottom stating that Cole's last name and exact farming location were withheld at his personal request. He contacted them directly and asked. His father, who goes by Daddy Cornstar, has kept his surname off the internet as well. So has his brother Cooper. The entire family agreed on this before the channel took off. Put the farm on camera, put your face on camera, document everything, just not the name. The reason is practical. Cole has been straightforward about fans showing up at the farm gate unannounced, expecting to meet him, expecting a tour. He has a working operation with 1,700 acres of crops to manage. Unannounced visitors are not something the schedule accommodates. What makes this unusual is that it runs against how most creators operate. The personal brand economy rewards accessibility. The more people feel like they know you, your name, your address, your daily routine, the more they feel connected. Cole built the opposite model. He gave his audience everything about the farm and almost nothing about himself, and it worked anyway. But the name was not the only thing Cole kept close when he launched the channel. The timing of when he started and what was happening in his personal life at that exact moment is the part most followers have never connected. Cole launched his YouTube channel in October 2018. His grandfather passed away the same year. Those two facts are not separate stories. They are the same story. Cole has described his grandfather in specific terms: a man who worked hard every day of his life, who made constant sacrifices, and who threw every dollar he earned back into the farm rather than keeping it for himself. The land was not a business to his grandfather. It was a calling. Cole watched that for years before he understood it fully. When the channel started, Cole described wanting to honor that legacy. He wanted to do his grandfather proud. He said that if his grandfather were alive to see what the channel became, he would be amazed, genuinely shocked, that people from around the world were watching. Cole described him as having a very distinct laugh and said the views would have drawn a lot of it out of him. The timing was not planned to be meaningful. It simply turned out that way. Cole started filming at the same moment the family was absorbing a significant loss, and the channel gave the family something to build together. His father found purpose in it. The audience responded in ways none of them had anticipated. Within a year and a half of launching, the channel passed 200,000 subscribers. The Iowa Board of Regents wrote about Cole in their February 2020 newsletter as a UNI success story. At the time, it was considered a remarkable milestone. What nobody mentioned was how much room was still left to grow. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me, because this next part is why the whole story matters. A finance degree from the University of Northern Iowa is not the obvious background for a farming YouTube channel, but it is exactly where the idea came from, and exactly why the idea worked. Cole grew up in central Iowa on family land. By 5 years old, he was sitting on his father's lap in the tractor cab. By 8, he was driving tractors on his own. The assumption that he would take over the farm one day was never stated as a formal plan. It was simply understood, the way things are when the land has been in the family across 5 generations. What shifted was college. At UNI, surrounded by students who had grown up in towns and cities, Cole started having conversations that surprised him. People who had lived in Iowa their whole lives did not understand how farming operations functioned. They did not know what a crop cycle looked like, what inputs cost, why planting windows mattered, or what happened between the field and the grocery store. The gap between the people feeding the country and the people eating was wider than Cole had realized. That bothered him enough to do something about it. The channel name came to him at 11:30 at night during a brainstorming session with friends. He went to sleep and started building the next morning. No extended planning period, no research into the creator economy. One night, one idea, one morning to begin. He described it afterward as feeling like it was simply meant to be. He has spoken about one of his gifts as the ability to take complicated things and make them interesting. That framing is important. He was not trying to entertain people who already understood farming. He was trying to explain farming to people who had never thought about it and bring them far enough inside the reality of it that they would care. Most people who know this story stop here. But the real story starts right now. The 5-bedroom farmhouse Cole moved into in 2019 was built in 1917. His great-great-grandfather purchased it, along with the surrounding land, in 1939 for $7,000. That number deserves a moment. $7,000 for a 5-bedroom house and land in Iowa. The same land that Cole now farms. The same house that Cole is currently restoring, more than 80 years after that original purchase. When Cole took possession of the house, it had not been cleaned in approximately 40 years. His grandfather had lived in it, and after his grandfather passed, the property sat. The first cleaning video Cole made about the house drew immediate attention. Viewers responded to the combination of visible history, enormous scale, and the raw condition of what had been left behind. Cole moved in and began the work himself. Hundreds of hours of cleaning, painting, and organizing before any serious structural work began. By 2024, the project had grown into a full demolition-level renovation. In a video update from September of that year, Cole walked viewers through 8 months of active construction, reviewed what had been completed, explained what remained, discussed the budget, and said what he would do differently if he were starting over. It became one of the most consistently watched series on his channel. Not because renovation content is unusual on YouTube, it isn't, but because the history behind this particular structure is not something that can be manufactured. The house sat on land his family has owned for over 80 years. Every hour Cole puts into it carries the weight of that. The Farmhouse series was running at the same time another major project was quietly becoming a legal dispute, one that Cole ended up taking all the way to a courtroom. Starting in 2022, Cole began filming something going wrong, in real time, on camera, for his entire audience to watch. He had invested in a new grain bin site for the farm. Grain bins matter on an operation like his. They allow farmers to store harvested crops, rather than selling immediately at harvest time prices, which are typically lower. For a 1,700-acre corn and soybean farm, that storage infrastructure is not optional. Cole's investment was approximately $1 million. The construction had problems. The grain pit was not reaching rated capacity. Equipment was failing. Cole documented it publicly and, at one point, asked his audience if they knew the contractor personally and could ask him to return a call. It was an unusual move, using a YouTube channel as a pressure mechanism, but Cole's audience was large enough that it was not an empty gesture. By 2023, the situation had escalated into a lawsuit. Cole was careful on camera about what he said, noting repeatedly that his lawyer had limited what he could disclose publicly. But he kept filming updates. Viewers followed the story across multiple videos, through the legal process, through 2024 updates, and into the most recent development. By mid-2026, Cole announced the bin site was being demolished entirely and rebuilt from scratch. $1 million construction project, a lawsuit against the contractor, a full teardown, all of it documented for an audience watching from across the country. What happened next is the reason this story spread across the internet. On August 10, 2020, a derecho moved across Iowa with winds that caused some of the most widespread crop and property damage the state had seen in years. A derecho produces straight-line winds across a corridor that can stretch hundreds of miles, not the circular destruction of a tornado, but a sustained wall of force that hits everything in its path with equal intensity. It hit Cole's farm directly. His largest building was destroyed. Semis were flipped. The cleanup took weeks. Cole went out and filmed it. He documented the damage in detail and continued filming through the recovery process. What happened next was not something he could have predicted. National news coverage of the derecho was limited. Major outlets were occupied with other stories, and the storm received little attention outside of local Iowa media. When people across the country searched to find out what had happened, Cole's video surfaced. It approached nearly 1 million views. He explained the dynamic clearly in an interview. The rest of the country didn't know about the storm. When they searched, his video was there. It is as straightforward as that. That single video introduced Cole to a category of viewer who had never sought out farming content, people who were simply looking to understand a weather event, and ended up watching a farmer walk through the wreckage of his own operation and explain what it would take to rebuild. Many of them subscribed. Many of them stayed. It demonstrated something about what the channel was actually doing that went beyond agriculture. Cole was documenting real events in real time, with enough detail and honesty that people who had no frame of reference for farming found themselves invested anyway. And that's when the decision was made, the one nobody around him saw coming. The version of Cole the Cornstar that the audience sees is the farm, the equipment, the projects, the family. The version that built all of that is harder to see. Cole has described his schedule in the early phase of the channel directly: 16 hours of farm work, then home, then 4 to 5 hours of filming and editing. That was not a temporary sprint. That was the routine, sustained over months while the channel grew and the farm kept running simultaneously. There was no team, no editor, no social media manager. Cole was handling both operations himself, and the farm could not be paused for the channel. Planting windows do not move. Harvest does not wait. Equipment failures do not schedule themselves around upload deadlines. He had a finance degree. He understood from the beginning that the channel needed to function as a business, not just a creative project. That thinking showed up in how it monetized. Sponsorships with brands including Pit Viper, Ariat, and Champion Seed became part of the revenue structure alongside YouTube ad income. Merchandise followed. Credible estimates place the channel's ad revenue alone in the six-figure range annually, with brand partnerships contributing meaningfully on top of that. The financial structure matters beyond the numbers. Cole has made the point, directly, in interviews, that the channel revenue functions as a buffer against the unpredictability of farming. A bad crop year, a collapsed commodity price, a major equipment failure, the channel does not stop earning because the farm had a hard season. That hedge is not accidental. It reflects the thinking of someone who understood, from his finance background, that a single revenue stream on a farm was a vulnerability worth addressing. Here's what the comments kept asking, and here's the answer they never got, until now. Cole has described his mission in specific language, to prove that the American dream is not dead, and to be a megaphone for agricultural education and innovation. The word megaphone is doing something in that sentence. Not entertainer, not content creator. Megaphone, a tool for amplifying something that already exists and making sure it reaches people who would not otherwise hear it. The frustration that drove the channel was always the same. People did not understand where their food came from. Not in a vague, general sense, in a specific, operational sense. They did not understand input costs or planting windows or what a yield number actually meant, or why a farmer's financial year could hinge on decisions made in a single week. Cole grew up inside that system and watched it be invisible to almost everyone outside of it. The channel addressed that gap directly. Videos explain equipment in enough detail that viewers with no agricultural background understand what they are watching. The bin site lawsuit was documented in the same spirit, not as drama, but as an honest account of what infrastructure investment looks like when it goes wrong, which is something farmers across the country recognized immediately. His father, Daddy Cornstar, described the audience simply. A lot of people following them had never been on a farm. They were learning something real. That was the point. The fifth-generation framing runs through all of it. Cole is not the first person in his family to decide how to carry this land forward. He is the most recent. The difference is that his version of that decision has over 600,000 people watching in real time, including people from countries that have never produced a bushel of Iowa corn. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me, because this next part is why the whole story matters. As of mid-2026, the channel is active, the uploads are consistent, and multiple major storylines are still unfolding. The 1917 farmhouse restoration is ongoing. It has been running for years and has not been rushed. Cole has been transparent about the timeline slipping, the budget evolving, and the scale of what a full structural renovation of a 100-year-old building actually requires. That honesty is part of why viewers keep returning to the series. There is no version of this project where everything goes smoothly, and Cole has never pretended otherwise. The bin site, after the lawsuit and the extended dispute, is now being rebuilt from the ground up. A $1 million infrastructure project that failed, produced litigation, and is now being replaced entirely. All of it captured on camera, all of it shared with an audience that includes people who have lived through exactly that situation, and people who had never heard of a grain bin before watching the channel. His father continues to appear regularly on the channel, and runs his own, which Cole encouraged him to start after the audience kept asking for more of Daddy Cornstar's perspective. His brother Cooper is still part of the operation. The family dynamic that the channel was built on is still the center of it. Cole has said he is still in the learning phase, still figuring out how to be a farmer and a young man at the same time, still working toward the moment when he fully takes over the operation. That framing has not changed since the channel's early days. The scale around it has. A channel brainstormed at 11:30 at night by a finance student who wanted to explain Iowa farming to people who had never seen a cornfield now reaches viewers in countries his great-great-grandfather could not have named. The land that sold for $7,000 in 1939 is still in the family. The work continues. Cole the Cornstar is not a story about a farmer who became a creator. It is a story about someone who decided the work itself was worth showing. Every part of it, including the failures, the legal battles, the storms, and the long rebuilds, and trusted that an audience would find it if he was honest enough. The farmhouse is still being restored. The bin site is being rebuilt. Another planting season is behind him, and another harvest is coming. The channel keeps rolling through all of it, because for Cole, there was never a version where the camera stopped and the farm started. They were always the same thing. His grandfather had a very distinct laugh. Cole said he'd be hearing a lot of it if he could see what this has become. Do you think Cole built something that lasts? Or does a channel built around one family's farm have a ceiling that the numbers will eventually hit?